All right, good afternoon. Let me start off with a statement reacting to what Sharon just said, and this is on the decision by the General Assembly on a new artificial intelligence governance institutions within the UN. The Secretary General warmly welcomes the General Assembly's decision to establish two new mechanisms within the United Nations to promote international cooperation on the governance of artificial intelligence. The establishment of the UN Independent International Scientific Panel on AI and the Global Dialogue on AI Governance marks a significant step forward in a global effort to harness the benefits of artificial intelligence while addressing its risks. This path-breaking milestone underlines member states' commitment to build on the Global Digital Compact adapted as part of the Pact for the Future in September 2024. The Global Dialogue on AI Governance will provide an inclusive platform within the United Nations for states and stakeholders to discuss the critical issues concerning artificial intelligence facing humanity today. The scientific panel on AI will serve as a crucial bridge between cutting-edge AI research and policy making. By providing rigorous, independent scientific assessments, it will help the international community to anticipate emerging challenges and make informed decisions about how we govern this transformative technology. The Secretary General will shortly be launching an open call for nominations for the scientific panel, which will present its annual report at the Global Dialogue on AI Governance to take place in July 2026 in Geneva and in 2027 in New York. You can already mark your calendars. The Secretary General calls on all stakeholders to support this historic initiative and contribute to building a future where artificial intelligence serves the common good of all humanity. This morning, the Secretary General was on the phone and he spoke with Camille El Tayeb Idris, the transitional Prime Minister of the Republic of Sudan, to discuss the humanitarian situation in Sudan as well as the protection of civilians and humanitarian access. I think we've been updating you regularly on the tragic humanitarian situation in Sudan, notably in El Fasher, which both the Secretary General, Mr. Idris, discussed. They focused on the dire humanitarian situation in El Fasher caused by the continuing encirclement and bombardments. Turning to the situation in the Gaza Strip, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs cited a report today from the Ministry of Health in Gaza that another 3 people have died from malnutrition and starvation in the past 24 hours, bringing the total number of such reported deaths to 303, including 117 children. At the same time, the Israeli military's continued new displacement orders covering approximately 1 square kilometer of Gaza City al-Daraj and Sheikh Radwan neighborhoods. People continue to flee in fear for their lives, seeking safety wherever possible. Between the 14th of August, when the offensive on Gaza City was announced, and yesterday, partners tracking population movements recorded more than 36,200 displacements, including over 11,600 from the north to the south of the Gaza Strip. The majority of people came from neighborhoods in Gaza City, with more than 2/3 moving to Deir al-Balah and nearly 1/3 heading to Khan Yunis. And as you know, the majority of people in Gaza have been displaced more than once. Turning to health situation, yesterday hospitals in Gaza warned of severe shortages of blood units, with daily needs exceeding 350 units. With many patients critically injured by hostilities, more blood is needed to save lives, yet community donations have plummeted due to famine and malnutrition. The Ministry of Health in Gaza has issued an urgent appeal to replenish blood stocks in hospitals. Meanwhile, obstructions imposed by the Israeli authorities on the flow of aid into and within Gaza Strip continue to constrain delivery of life-saving assistance by ourselves and our partners. Yesterday, 6 out of 12 missions that required coordination with the Israeli authorities were facilitated. Most of them were to move supplies into and within southern Gaza and collect fuel from the Karim Abu Salam crossing. Another 3 missions to collect cargo from that crossing, as well as Zikim, were impeded and therefore only partially accomplished, while 2 other missions had to be canceled by the organizers. 1 mission to carry out road repairs in Khan Yunis was denied outright by the Israeli authorities. Our humanitarian colleagues stress that with famine now confirmed in Gaza Governorate, the humanitarian consequences of ongoing hostilities, of displacement, and of aid obstruction are even more devastating for the population. We urgently call for an immediate ceasefire and full, unhindered humanitarian access across the Gaza Strip to bring an end to the suffering of civilians and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. On Ukraine, our humanitarian colleagues have updated us on the situation there as well, and they tell us that more civilians have been killed and injured following hostilities and attacks across the country these past days. Damage has also been reported to schools and energy infrastructure. In the Donetsk region was the most impacted, and regions of Sumy, Kharkiv, Kherson, Mykolaiv, Dnipro, and Zaporizhzhia were also affected. Aid organizations are mobilized and have distributed repair materials, hot meals, and are providing psychological support. Meanwhile, humanitarians continue to support people fleeing hostilities in the region of Donetsk and Dnipro. Between the 22nd and the 25th of August, more than 2,000, including many children, were evacuated from the Donetsk region. With growing pressure on the transit sites in the towns of Pavlorad, authorities and aid organizations opened new facilities in Volodsk, in Dnipro, and in town of Lozova, in the Kharkiv region. Evacuees receive medical and psychosocial support, hot meals, water, and hygiene supplies, and can register for cash assistance before moving to safer areas. Humanitarians were also supporting arrivals in other parts of Ukraine. And this afternoon at 4 p.m., the Security Council will convene for a briefing on threats to international peace and security. Miroslav Yencha, the Assistant Secretary General in the Political and Peacebuilding Department, will brief Council members. Yesterday, our Deputy Secretary General was in Nigeria, where she addressed the inaugural African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit. That took place in Abuja. She called for a new era of strategic regional defense collaboration, stressing that sustainable development, peace, and security are mutually reinforcing, underscoring that development remains the most effective deterrent to insecurity. She urged coordinated action to confront terrorism, climate change, cyber threats, and disinformation. Also, just want to flag 2 other items today. One from the World Health Organization and UNICEF, which revealed today that in a joint report that 1 out of 4 people living on this planet, and that's 2.1 billion human beings globally, still lack access to safely managed drinking water, putting them at risk of disease and deeper social exclusion. Billions of others still lack safely managed sanitation and basic hygiene services at home. People living in the least developed countries are the most affected communities. These inequalities, however, are especially stark for girls, who often bear the brunt of water collection and face additional barriers during menstruation. The report calls for accelerated action if we are to keep our promise to reach the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And also I can tell you that we join our colleagues at the UN Refugee Agency to commend the adoption by the Thai government of a resolution that will grant long-staying refugees from Myanmar the right to work in Thailand. This resolution recognizes a protracted situation of some 81,000 forcibly displaced people hosted in temporary shelters along the Thai-Myanmar border. The new policy will enable refugees to work legally in the country and contribute meaningfully to the Thai economy. Many of these refugees have been living in camps for decades and are entirely dependent on humanitarian aid. Around 47% of them were born in temporary shelters. UNHCR said the building on Thailand's 50-year legacy and leadership on hosting refugees, the new policy, if fully implemented, will set a new regional benchmark for a sustainable, rights-based refugee solution that could serve as a model for other countries facing similar challenges. That's it for me. Abdelhamid, and then Hamidi.
Thank you, Steph. Are you aware that Israel today
Recording in progress.
That's a good thing. Sorry.
They invaded Ramallah, and they went to the heart of Ramallah, and at least 15 Palestinians were wounded. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing these reports. I can tell you that we're concerned about these operations and the way they were conducted in the West Bank.
My second question about the response of Israel to the peace proposal. The spokesman for Qatari Foreign Ministry, Majid al-Ansari, said that we're still waiting for the response of Israel. Although Hamas accepted the proposal 10 days ago, what is your take on that?
Well, as you know, we're not directly involved in the negotiations. The Secretary General has been kept regularly informed of what is going on, but obviously it needs, as we've said repeatedly, we need to see the leaders of Israel and the leaders of Hamas to find the political courage to agree on a plan for a ceasefire that will lead to everything we've been talking about, and we hope that will happen. Amélie.
Thanks, Steph. On the AI panel, so the SG will launch the appeal for candidates to apply. Do you have any kind of timeline of when he will recommend the names to the GA?
I don't have an exact timeline. I know he's keen on moving quickly on this. The letters will go out, and I'm sure there'll be details to the time frame. But as I said, the next meeting, I think, is supposed to take place within a year. So things will move quickly. And he has, I think, Secretary General has in the past moved as swiftly as possible within this organization on AI matters. Edie Lederer.
Thank you, Steph. There was a major protest today in Israel led by hostage families demanding a ceasefire. Is this the kind of action that the Secretary General would support in hopes of getting a ceasefire more quickly?
Far from the Secretary General to involve himself in domestic Israeli policies. I refer you to what I just said to Abdel Hamid, which he hopes that there is a solution, that there is a ceasefire, that we see humanitarian aid flow, that we see hostage families reunited with their loved ones, that we see the return of a political path, that we see the people of Gaza being afforded the ability to hope again. Right, and I can tell you that on the hostage issues, the Secretary General has very often met with hostage families, and he's been following this very closely. Deji.
Yesterday, the Secretary General urged for an independent investigation on the Nasser hospital strike. Today, IDF released their initial findings on that strike. They claim that they neutralized 6 Hamas terrorists and 1 camera. Does the Secretary General think this is a good start with the finding?
Look, I think there will be a good start when there's accountability for those who have lost their lives, your colleagues, the medical workers, and all other civilians.
Why there's always Hamas? Last time when the journalist from Al Jazeera got killed, the Israeli accused Hamas, and this time there's Hamas. So is this like a scapegoat in this conflict?
This is a question for a seasoned Middle East analyst. It's not for me to answer these questions and to comment on these things. I think our position has been very clear.
Okay, let me ask you for one last comment. Does the Secretary General have any comment of the intention of President Trump to change Department of Defense to Department of War?
No, we try to stay away from domestic politics as much as we can in most countries. We don't always succeed, but we try. All right. Yes, Sinan.
Thank you, Stéphane. In recent days, the Supreme Court of Iran confirmed the death sentence of Kurdish activist Sharifa Mohammadi. So the Kurdistan National Congress Women Commission basically published an article, and they are saying they respectfully call on the United Nations and UN Women to urge Islamic Republic of Iran to impose an immediate moratorium on all executions and to release human rights defender Sharifa Mohammadi and all other political prisoners. So the question is, does Secretary General going to like make like an urgent call or has any message for Iranian regime?
I think we have been very public, both from this podium and in reports by our human rights colleagues, on our deep concern of the continued use of the death penalty in the Islamic Republic of Iran, as we have in other countries that continue to use this as a punishment. We call on all countries to enact an immediate moratorium on the death penalty. Okay, no questions online.